She invited her ex to her own birthday party, and everyone thought I'd just smile, nod, and pretend it didn't rip the ground out from under me. They thought I'd be the quiet, agreeable husband. But when I showed up with his girlfriend, suddenly the cake wasn't the only thing that exploded. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and leave a comment if you've ever seen someone try to play you for a fool. You're not going to want to miss what comes next. I was finishing a long Tuesday, sitting on the couch with the TV humming softly, when my wife, Hannah, walked in wearing a smile that never meant anything good. Not for me, anyway. It was the kind of smile people get right before they announce something outrageous and expect you to applaud. She dropped her purse, kicked off her heels, and said, "So, Mark, I've got news about the party this weekend." Her birthday party. The one I'd been planning for weeks. Catering, decorations, flowers. Everything to make her feel celebrated. I'd even taken time off work to handle the setup. I looked up, bracing myself, because whenever she used that tone, trouble followed like a shadow. "I invited someone today," she said, pausing dramatically. She wanted me to ask who. She lived for that. When I didn't, she continued with her faux innocence. "I invited my ex Daniel." That snapped my attention away from the TV. "Your ex? Why?" She shrugged, pretending it was harmless. "I ran into his mom at Target. She said he's going through a rough time. Poor guy just needs support. Support. From her. At a party thrown by me." She said it like I was the unreasonable one for questioning it. "So let me get this straight," I said. 5 minutes in the cereal aisle, and you decided he should come celebrate your birthday with your husband?" She rolled her eyes. "We're all adults. You're blowing this out of proportion. 8 months. That's how long they dated, long enough for him to be practically family. According to her. Funny how she'd never used that phrase before. Suddenly, she's deeply invested in his emotional well-being. Her voice softened into that patronizing tone she saved for when she wanted to steamroll me. "I already invited him. I need you to act normal. Just be mature about it. Act normal. Be mature." Translation. Stay quiet while I rewrite the boundaries of our marriage. I stared at her, letting my silence speak louder than any argument ever could. She expected me to yell, to beg, to argue. Instead, something colder settled inside me. Steady, controlled, almost peaceful. Finally, I said, "You're right." She blinked. "I am. Absolutely. If he's going through something, he should be there. In fact, I think it's a wonderful idea." Relief washed over her face. She genuinely believed she'd won. But she had no idea that I wasn't agreeing, that I was calculating. I leaned forward slightly. "Actually, if he needs support, shouldn't his girlfriend come too?" That smile of hers evaporated. "His girlfriend?" she repeated, voice thin. "Sure. If we're going to help him, we should do it properly. Emotional support and all that." She froze, completely still. A woman caught in the middle of a lie with no escape route. "I don't think that's necessary," she said quickly. "Why not? If this is purely friendly, surely she should be welcomed." Her throat tightened. She didn't have an answer that wouldn't reveal everything she'd been hiding. I gave her the same smile she'd walked in with. "Don't worry. I'll handle the details." The next morning, while she was at work, I started digging. It didn't take long. Daniel wasn't subtle online. Pictures of him and a woman named Zoe, celebrating 1 year together. Hiking trips, family dinners, date nights. A real relationship. One he clearly cared about. My wife thought she was being clever. She didn't realize she'd just given me the perfect opening to start pulling every thread. And when threads start pulling, things unravel fast. By the time she came home that night acting like nothing was wrong. Taking secret calls in the bathroom, keeping her phone face down on every surface. I already knew what my next move was. Not anger. Not yelling. Not pleading. Just quiet, deliberate preparation. And that's when everything began to shift. The days leading up to the party felt like watching a house burn in slow motion. My wife, Hannah, moving through our home with a glow she hadn't worn in years, and me, quietly gathering the ashes she thought I'd never notice. She spent her evenings whispering into her phone behind closed doors, pretending to scroll recipes while her screen reflected messages she didn't want me to see. Whenever I walked into a room, she'd snap her laptop shut like a teenager hiding something. And the more she acted like nothing was wrong, the clearer it became that everything was on Wednesday. While she was in the shower, her laptop buzzed with a notification. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But there comes a point in every betrayed person's life where curiosity stops being a vice and becomes survival. The email was short but devastating. Can't wait to see you again. Tuesday felt too short. He doesn't suspect anything. My name wasn't mentioned, but there was no need. I wasn't the kind of man she wrote to with that kind of excitement. And Tuesday was when she claimed she'd spent 6 hours shopping. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then quietly closed the laptop and stepped away. No yelling, no slamming doors, just a cold clarity settling in. That same afternoon, I found the courage to contact Zoe, the woman I'd only seen through carefully curated posts on Daniel's social media. She responded within half an hour, her voice sharp and steady as she confirmed what I already suspected. "Is this about Daniel and some married woman?" she asked. We arranged to meet at a Starbucks downtown. When I arrived, she was already seated, posture straight, eyes alert, like someone who'd prepared for this moment far longer than I had. I told her everything. Every strange detail, every excuse Hannah had made, every shift in her behavior. Zoe listened without interrupting, her expression tightening with each new piece of the puzzle. When I mentioned the email from Tuesday, she exhaled slowly, as if letting go of a weight she'd carried too long. "I knew something was wrong," she muttered. "He's been distant for months, and every time I asked questions, he changed his story." She scrolled through her own messages, showing me late-night excuses, sudden disappearances, and vague explanations about helping friends I now knew didn't exist. We sat across from each other, two strangers tied together by the same betrayal, and something unspoken settled between us. Not camaraderie, not yet, but recognition. She wasn't the type to suffer quietly, and neither was I. When she asked, "So what do you want to do about it?" her tone made it clear she wasn't suggesting forgiveness. We began planning right there, in that crowded coffee shop with the hum of espresso machines covering our voices. The idea was simple. Let them both walk into the party confident, careless, sure of their secrets, then pull the curtain back when neither had time to hide. Zoe would show up halfway through the night, dressed not for a fight but for absolute clarity. She wanted Daniel to feel the ground drop beneath him while surrounded by people he respected. She wanted Hannah's perfect image to crack right where she worked hardest to polish it. I didn't argue. I wanted the truth to stand where lies had lived for too long. The next day, Zoe messaged me again. She had gone through Daniel's things while he claimed he was at the gym. What she found could have flattened anyone with a weaker heart. Photos of him with Hannah. Unmistakably intimate moments captured in restaurants, on street corners, in places she told me she'd never been. Receipts for hotel rooms booked at times when she'd sworn she was at work events. Location data screenshots. It was overwhelming, and yet it all clicked together with sickening precision. When we met again, Zoe laid everything out on the table like evidence in a courtroom. "He's been using me as a sounding board," she said, her jaw tense, "asking me about marriage, commitment, whether unhappy people deserve a chance at happiness somewhere else. He wasn't asking for himself. He was asking for her. The betrayal had layers I hadn't even begun to imagine. And as she spoke, something inside me quieted. Not broken, not defeated, just still, like a lake right before a storm. We refined the plan. We chose timing, tone, even where I would stand when I opened the door for her. Zoe had a keen instinct for humiliation, controlled, deliberate, and precise. Let them get comfortable, she said. Let them laugh together, touch each other, think they're winning. Then we walk in and let their own actions bury them. Her strategy wasn't emotional. It was surgical. When I returned home, Hannah was glowing, twirling in front of the mirror in a new dress she claimed she bought just for fun. She kissed my cheek and told me she loved me, her voice bright and warm. But now I heard the hollowness behind it. She looked so sure of the world she'd built, so confident I would never push back, that for a moment I almost pitied her. Almost? "I'm glad you're being so understanding," she said softly. "It means everything to me." "Don't worry," I told her. "Everyone who's supposed to be there will be there." She smiled, thinking it was a promise of support. She didn't realize it was something else entirely. BY Saturday morning. The house looked stunning. Flowers, lights, a cake that cost more than my first car. Hannah buzzed around with the excitement of someone expecting a secret lover, not celebrating with her husband. And as I watched her float through the rooms, checking final details like nothing could go wrong, I felt that cold clarity return. The stage was set. All that was left was the audience. By the time the first guests walked through the door, everything looked flawless, like a magazine spread built to hide secrets under polished surfaces. Hannah greeted everyone with the bright warmth of a woman who believed the universe adored her. She drifted from guest to guest, touching arms, laughing a bit too loudly, checking the entrance every few minutes as if waiting for someone who mattered more than all of them combined. And when the door finally opened at 7:15 and Daniel stepped inside with a bouquet of lilies, her whole face changed. Not dramatically, not enough for a photograph, but enough for anyone with eyes to see. She lit up from the inside like a lantern that had been dark for years. I watched her catch herself, forcing her smile into something polite, something rehearsed. But that first spark, the real one, was already burned into my memory. Daniel made his rounds, shaking hands, complimenting the house, pretending he had no idea his presence was a slap in my face. He played the role of an old friend flawlessly, even joking with people he'd clearly never met. But the tell was in the way he and Hannah kept drifting together, small gravity pulling them toward private corners. Twice they slipped into the kitchen for more wine. Once, I found them on the back patio, standing too close, her voice soft in a way it never was with me anymore. They weren't foolish enough to touch where others could see, but intimacy doesn't require touching. Anyone who's lived long enough knows that at 8 o'clock, I sent Zoe a text. "He's here. They're warming up." Her reply arrived instantly. "Perfect. Give me 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes stretched, tightening the air in the house. Guests laughed, music played, glasses clinked, but under all of it, a tension hummed. Hannah was glowing, preening almost. Daniel watched her with the quiet hunger of someone who believed his fantasy was within reach. And I stood among my friends like a man holding a match just inches from a fuse. At 8:20. The two of them drifted back into the kitchen for more ice, though there were 2 full buckets already out. Through the doorway, I saw Hannah touch his arm as she laughed. A soft, private laugh she hadn't used with me in years. It was the kind of moment that didn't need explanation. It spoke for itself. I texted Zoe. "Kitchen. Now is perfect." 3 minutes later, The doorbell rang. I walked to the front door with a calm I didn't entirely understand. I opened it, and there she was, Zoe. Stunning in a black dress, posture strong, eyes steady, carrying herself like she'd been preparing for this single moment for weeks. Not dramatic, not angry, just ready. Zoe, I said loudly enough for the nearest guests to hear. What a wonderful surprise. Everyone, come meet Daniel's girlfriend. The room shifted. Conversations dipped. Heads turned. From across the living room, I saw Daniel's face lose every drop of color. Hannah froze mid-sentence, her smile collapsing before she could put on a new one. Zoe walked in slowly, deliberately, like a general entering enemy territory. I hope I'm not interrupting anything, she said warmly. When Daniel told me he was coming tonight, I just had to meet the woman he's talked so much about. People stepped aside instinctively as she moved toward the kitchen, where Daniel stood like a statue waiting for a verdict. She slipped her arm through his before he could step back. Sweetheart, aren't you going to introduce me? Daniel's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Hannah's voice broke first. This is unexpected. Oh, don't worry, Zoe said brightly. Daniel's been talking about you often, especially your marriage troubles. Gasps. Soft ones, but unmistakable. My what? Hannah whispered. Marriage troubles, Zoe repeated, still smiling. All those late-night calls, long talks about whether marriages can survive when people drift apart. He's been so invested in helping you find clarity. She turned her head, looking at the widening circle of listening guests. He's quite compassionate, you know? Always rushing off to support you. Daniel choked out, Zoe, maybe we should step outside. She tightened her grip. Why? These are your friends, aren't they? Surely they'd understand you helping her through such a difficult time. The murmurs rose. People glanced at each other. Some stopped pretending not to eavesdrop. Then Zoe pulled out her phone. Actually, she said calmly, maybe you should explain this. She held up a photo, one of Daniel and Hannah seated close together in a restaurant booth, her hand covering his. The timestamp visible. Tuesday. Her 6-hour shopping trip. A rush of whispers swept the room. Hannah stepped forward, trembling. That's taken out of context. Oh. Zoe swiped to the next image. A hotel receipt. Then another. Then a photo of Daniel with his arm around Hannah's waist in a crowded street, their faces soft with affection. People stared, horrified, fascinated, unsure where to look. Hannah's voice cracked. This is a lie. Zoe finally dropped her smile. Her voice sharpened like glass. A lie? You've been sleeping with my boyfriend for months. Ask him. She shoved Daniel lightly toward her. Ask him how many Thursdays you two spent together while he told me he was fixing his cousin's computer. The room fell dead silent. Then something inside Hannah snapped. Everyone, please, she cried. This woman is unstable. Someone get her out of my house. Zoe laughed. A cold, stunning sound. Your house? Sweetheart, after tonight, you'll be lucky if your friends let you into theirs. Before anyone could move, she reached across the counter, grabbed Hannah by the hair, and slammed her face straight into the enormous, expensive birthday cake. Gasps erupted, followed by stifled laughs. Hannah staggered back, frosting dripping down her cheeks, mascara streaking like war paint. Happy birthday, Zoe said quietly. You earned it. Chaos broke loose. Guests shouting, people backing away, someone filming behind a plant. Daniel tried to approach Zoe, babbling something that sounded like an apology, but she stepped back with fire in her eyes. We are done, she told him. Get your things out of my apartment by tomorrow, or they're going in the trash. Then she turned to me. Your turn. I stepped into the center of the room, took a breath, and pulled a manila envelope from the gift table. Since we're sharing things tonight, I said evenly, I have something too. I held up the divorce papers. This marriage is over, I said calmly, and I wanted everyone to hear it from me. Hannah stared at me, cake smeared, shaking, clutching a frosting-covered napkin. Mark, please. I handed her the papers. Consider this your real birthday present. Silence. Heavy. Absolute. Zoe slipped her arm through mine and nodded toward the door. Come on, she whispered. We're done here. We walked out together as the house behind us erupted in shouting, crying, and arguments, none of which were my problem anymore. On the sidewalk, under the cool night air, Zoe let out a breath and said, well, that was satisfying. I didn't disagree. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment about the wildest party disaster you've ever witnessed. Your support keeps these stories coming.